Good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Good morning. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, good
Okay.
morning.
My teams decided to just quit. All right. Give everybody another minute here. We got a pretty nice sized group here today. Let's see. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So Kevin is out on PTO this week, so we'll take over. And this week for him, just checking on everybody's desktop connector, making sure that everyone is on 16.15. Is anyone on an earlier version? Raise your hand so you can raise your hand as well. Okay, Ricardo. Yeah, let's go ahead and get you upgraded to 16.15. You will definitely see a lot of good benefits. The latest version of Civil 3D with 16.15 makes a huge difference, especially file lockings and so forth. Anyone having any issues with 16.15 at this point? And you guys have tried to install this through your company portal?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay, another one that we need to keep checking is this your Access desktop, your desktop connector and your Access Autodesk Access app, making sure that all the updates are updated here. You don't need admin rights to update this information. Okay. All right. Parts catalog, still working on this with our core development group and our mentors are helping us working this parts catalogs. Still, please send us if you have any custom parts, we need to know about them before we roll this out. So if you have those, please shoot us an email and let us know that you have some parts that you need to include in our centralized parts catalog. So just quite quick info on that one. And do we have any new Civil 3D users in this call? Nobody's going to raise their hands. Oh, we have Matt, but he's on hold, so he might not be available.
Can't remember if he joined the last one or not. I don't think so. I think this is his first monthly user group meeting.
I think so too. But it looks like he might be away. Looks like he's on hold.
For the newer hires that got hired in the last year and a half, Matt worked at Hazen previously for I think almost 10 years. Left for a little bit, but he's back. So he's in our Southeast region. And those that have been here are familiar with Matt and know how talented he is in all our program formats. So another great resource for our Hazen team.
Mm-hmm. For sure. All right. So we've got Project Explorer for our tips and tricks this month, and we've got some share screens of title blocks and some gravity and pipe networks swapping parts through Project Explorer. So Jesse, do you want to take it over at this point?
Sure. Thank you. Can you guys see my screen? Does it look okay?
Yep. It
Clear?
looks a little small.
Okay. That's what I figured was probably going to happen. Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we are going to go into Project Explorer here in a minute, but I did want to take some time to talk about our new title block and sheet numbering rollout. I know this is a change we've mentioned before. We've actually been working on this for several months. We've got the documentation, we've rolled it out. Um, everybody now has the same setup as far as title block information and where our disciplines are going to be on the sheet, as well as the area facility name. This would be our subset in Civil 3D, and drawing name is our sheet title. Basically, these locations are set in our standard attribute block. This one is going to be the same for everybody. The area slash facility name slash subset is going to be bottom center justified, so it would grow up if needed, and the drawing name is top center justified, so it will grow down as needed. The reason these locations are important is because we can extract this information in Bluebeam, especially if everybody uses the same setup and these pieces of information are in the exact same spot for everybody. So I think we touched on this before, but now that people are actually starting to hopefully use this information, because our title blocks that are linked in our Hazen ribbon are using this new format and our attribute blocks are using this new format. Any questions on this so far before we jump into sheet numbering?
Has anyone started using this new title block?
Yeah, I have. And when it comes to including the name of the project or the area or facility name, it gets kind of confusing, because
Yes.
it's such a long name. But
Yes.
if you don't mind, could you run through a real example? I can give
Yes.
you maybe a project name if you don't have one on hand.
Yes. Let me see. The ones that I have selected on here, I'm probably using, yeah, if you want to give me a project, I'll add it and we can take a look at it. Do you know which one, Erica?
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's okay.
Um, 40619-038.
I don't know. I don't have that one. So you may have to share your screen. If you want to do that, or we can kind of talk through it. Basically, if you've got it handy, you can share your screen or maybe open it and share your screen.
Yeah, I'm opening it now.
Okay. Sometimes, obviously, our drawing name defaults to that sheet title. And in some cases, we have to add the description field as well. So that would be an additional field, just like we currently do. If we're working on something that's like, a conveyance job where it has maybe the road name or utility name for the plane and profile we're going to be working on, and then the sheet title might be station 10 plus 00 to 15 plus 00, and then we may need to add a description field below that for plane and profile or some additional information. So that may still be the case if we have a multi-line drawing name that we need to expand this information. So, so as long as we keep it in this mtext group, it should be fine to add additional fields if you need to, because it would still start from that top center.
There are so many folders for this project. I chose a horrible one.
That's all right. If you open a drawing and open a sheet set, then we can kind of look at an example of that project. Obviously, our sheet numbering looks different, and the reason that we're rolling out the new sheet numbering is to allow us more flexibility to add additional sheets as we're developing our plan set. So, you know, at 30%, we're not going to have as many sheets as we are at 100%. If the client decides to add or remove certain things in our scope, we have a little more flexibility without having to number all of our hundreds of sheets. What I've done here is basically create a version of that table, and I kind of grayed out what doesn't apply to civil site and conveyance drawings to make it a little easier to follow. Basically, you would choose the discipline designator at the very beginning. So if it is a multidiscipline project like a plant project, the general sheets are going to be handled by the process mechanical lead. So we would just be concentrating on C for civil. Now, if we're doing a strictly civil site or maybe even strictly conveyance project, then we would be handling the G sheets. We would do the cover sheet, we would do the sheet index. So these two are kind of where we're going to live at. And then next we jump to that process area facility / category number. And you'll notice that civil conveyance is pretty, it's pretty flexible. When it gets beyond a certain point, we can define different areas if we need to do maintenance of traffic or something like that that we need to add in. We have flexibility to have some additional category numbers. When it gets over to the drawing type designator, we are pretty much completely user defined at that point. So whether you organize it by a road name you're working on or an area, it's just giving you, again, more flexibility. You know, if you don't need all of those numbers, then that's okay. I do want to present some examples of what we're talking about here. So the discipline designator obviously is here. The civil category number is the next 2 digits. Then you have your drawing type designator and the sequence number. So this is where your sheet numbering comes in. And this is how you're grouping your sheet numbers into different pods of or groups of sheets. And then I know that our appendix gives examples, and we're probably going to expand this to give examples for each discipline so that we're not just covering a handful. We're going to cover more examples here, but this is just giving you an example on what that looks like. This is the table that I pulled that picture from, and I grayed out the ones that wouldn't apply to our civil conveyance projects. So let's just look at maybe some examples of what this would look like. So for a conveyance project, since the civil would be handling our cover sheet, legends and abbreviations, then we're going to be handling the creation of a couple of general sheets. And then we may have existing conditions in demo. Maybe it's combined, maybe it's separated, maybe it's only one sheet. Just giving you an idea what you might see on a conveyance project. Erosion control. So existing conditions in demo are O1 sheets. Erosion control, stormwater management are O2 sheets. And then conveyance and plan profile sheets are O4 sheets. So you see that it does jump from 1, 2, and then to 4. So initially, we'd like everybody to stick with this numbering. Now, if you get feedback from a QC reviewer that says, why are we skipping numbers? You can show them our documentation. If they are saying, hey, this is a small project and I just want it to be 01, 02, 03. Civil has a little more flexibility in that us changing those groupings won't affect other people. But what we're trying to do is get everybody used to our standard. This is our standard. But I anticipate that we will get questions about why are we skipping numbers. So just be prepared for that. In this case, with the conveyance numbers, the CO4 is all the same, but then we're grouping maybe our 8-inch gravity sewer in the 100s and maybe an interceptor in the 200s, or however you want to separate out your areas that you're working in, so that you can continue to expand this or add additional lines if you need to. And then for situations where, like in this particular project, we don't have other disciplines, but we need to detail out maybe a diversion structure, a control structure, a vault, an outlet structure, something specific that we're going to detail out without getting into structural and mechanical and other disciplines. We may add specific project details in one of those user-defined categories. And then standard details are always going to be 99s and start with 9. So these go at the very end of the set, and they're always going to be at the very end of that discipline set. So this would be an example of a conveyance only project. And then we've got an example of a civil site project. Again, if it's only civil site and there are no other disciplines, we're going to be creating a handful of general sheets, and we may have existing conditions and then maybe a demo. So maybe we have these separated. And then erosion control, stormwater management, plan sheets. At this point, you could do 101, 102 if it's a very small project. If you anticipate that you may expand on some of these sheets, you could go 101, 201, 301. So really you have a little flexibility here if you anticipate that the project may grow. But if you're just trying to keep it short and sweet, you can do that also. This particular one, I am using one of those user-defined numbers for maintenance of traffic. So giving it an 06 designator, and again, with our standard details in the 99s. So that's an example of civil site and conveyance only. So any questions on those before we jump over to kind of what a plant project would look like?
I have an example, a live
Okay.
example.
Yep. If you want to grab the screen, that'd be great. Okay.
So I did make some adjustments to this this attribute block, but I know that's wrong. So I wanted to try to get a walkthrough of how to get this title to show up right here in this line.
Okay, so if you open your sheet set file for that, your first line where it says civil above the overall site plan would be your area number if you don't have one. Now, if you have one, like an area number or a subset number in your sheet set. So if you can show me your sheet set list.
Okay.
Yeah. There you go. So your subset says civil, and we should be dividing our sheet sets by discipline. So civil should be built into the properties of the name of your sheet set. So your subset doesn't need to say civil because this is all civil. Does that make sense?
Okay, so would that?
So that would say whatever you're working on, NSU, WWTP, rapid infiltration basin. Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's basically what that would be. And then your next area would be the next subset name. So this is a perfect example. I'm glad you brought this up, Erica, because this is exactly exactly how you would approach it, right? So instead of having your description field in the actual sheet individually, you would have it in that subset, and that's where it's going to populate from. So this is a great example of how it's used.
Cool.
Does everybody
That was mine.
see what she did there, which field she's using? Okay, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We always like real world stuff so we can
Mhm.
actually see what we're going to be doing in the program. So that's great. For plant projects. So plant projects are obviously going to have usually a lot of sheets, or a lot more sheets than just a small project. In this case, general will be C sheets because somebody else is handling our cover sheet and our drawing index and the overall, abbreviations or legends and abbreviations. If there are additional civil general notes or civil legends and abbreviations that we need to incorporate for this project, they become C sheets. So I know it's a little bit confusing, but this part hasn't changed from our typical setup. It's just the numbering looks different. So is everybody following that? This that we're looking at currently would be a multidiscipline project, meaning a process mechanical lead is leading the project and they are handling the upfront sheets in Revit. So these are specific only to civil. And then we've got existing conditions. And here I'm giving an example of if you had existing condition plan with a couple of areas and you separated out your demo plans with a couple of areas. So that's the difference in the colors here. So 100s were existing conditions, 200s are demo. Erosion control, currently I'm just showing a list of erosion control. In some cases, you're going to have phasing. So again, they would be O2 sheets, but then you could do 100s for phase 1, 200s for phase 2 if you wanted to divide it out in phases, because some projects do have phasing on erosion control plans. And then plan sheets. So again, with the O3 designator for plan sheets, and then site plans are 100s, yard piping 200s, 300s for grading and paving. In some instances, these are independent sheets. Maybe grading and paving are separated. So maybe you have 300s and 400s, but it's basically showing you that the category designator is O3 for plan sheets, and then you have flexibility on how you want to organize that. This is also important. Any overall key plan or overall plan sheet would be 100, 200, 300, and then area 1 would be 01, area 2 would be 02, and obviously you can go all the way up to 99. I hope you don't have a project with 99 areas. That would be brutal, but we have flexibility to do that if we need to. So is everybody following what we're doing here with these sheets? Any questions on that?
Not so
Okay.
far.
Okay, great. And then conveyance. So in a plant project, your conveyance sheets are usually smaller little plan over profiles where you're profiling specific lines. So again, you have flexibility here as long as you're staying in the O4s. You can group these together. If I decided I wanted, I'm going to have multiple sheets of this 54 mixed liquor, maybe I do this as a 100 series, and then maybe I do the RAS as a 200 series. But if you have a lot of plan and profile sheets, and Nilza and the team from Utley, this is a good example of like Utley has lots of plan and profile sheets. So in this case, you would have a lot of 101, 102 through however many plan over profile sheets you have. So if you had to plug one in there, you would have a lot of sheets to renumber. But again, you have flexibility to divide these out in 10s, 20s, 100s, whatever works for you if you want to have the flexibility to plug in additional lines. So just another thing to keep in mind, because really, once you get past this category number, this is very flexible for us because we don't affect other disciplines with these numbers. And then again with the standard details in the 99s. So these are a couple just examples of how these types of projects may be set up. Any questions on this? Any comments,
Yeah.
feedback?
Jesse, can you go over the standard details
Mhm.
on numbering, how
I-
client details would go? Do we need to
I
number those based on that
I
client
think
versus?
we did it. We may have touched on that last month. I'll have to go
Yeah,
look.
and
I
I'm
think
just
we,
wondering based on the
oh, based on
numbering.
this.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you could group them together. I mean, honestly, I think your standard details are going to be kind of just in order. But we did, I think, discuss that your client details would be separate from Hazen details, and if you had DOT details, those would be grouped together on specific sheets. And then, if there's something specific to this project, trying to separate out your sources of information um, on different sheets. So instead of doing a mix of client and Hazen and DOT, or maybe you're working with a municipality that has their own details, instead of mixing those all together on one or two sheets, separate them out so you can have these are client details, these are DOT details, these are standard details, Hazen standard details. Does that make sense? Is that what you were referring to, Nielsa? How to kind of
No, I
separate
was
them
just
out?
wondering if we could, if there was, now that this numbering system's out, do we need to number them based on um, Hazen
You
details, client
you
details?
you
But I guess not.
could, yeah, you could. I mean, basically, you've got room for 100 detail sheets.
Hmm.
Um, you could do them. If you only had a couple of details, you could make them start with 910 and then 920 for another round of details, and 930 for DOT details or something like that if you only had a handful. But I
Hmm.
think with standard details, you're probably just going to number them in order. Um,
Okay.
but if you're grouping them together with client details and Hazen details, you do have a little extra flexibility there. If you
Hmm.
leave room on a couple of those sheets, you can stick another detail or two in there without moving on to
Yeah,
the next sheet.
yeah.
But
Especially
that's
if
it.
you're putting them all into one base file
Yep,
for
yep,
details, it's a lot easier to move them around.
exactly. Yep,
So
I
we
love
have
doing
to
that.
use that 900 designator basically if
Yes,
901
yep,
is our number one detail sheet.
yes. And mechanicals will be 99. M99 901s, and structural will be 99 901s. So they're at the very tail end of everybody's list. Hey, Brent,
Okay.
you got a question?
Yeah, quick question. Just looking here at the conveyance, the plan profile sheets. The
Hmm.
overall key map, should that be 200 instead of 201?
Yes, you're right.
Okay.
Yep,
I was
yep.
just
This
double
numbering is,
checking on that.
yep, good point. Yep, I will change that. That's good catch. That
Okay.
should be 100 and 200, and we should start numbering from there.
Okay.
Yep, that was a good catch. Thank you.
All
I'll
right.
update that before the next call. So, any kind of questions on these examples? I can share these examples if you want a visual of kind of what we talked about, if that would be helpful, including the picture here that kind of helps us decide where things should go.
Yeah, that would help me a lot with just a quick cheat of those images and kind of what to go off of.
Okay,
And especially as we explain it to other engineers in the South Central region,
exactly. Yep,
they're going
because
to be
that's what we're,
like,
yes.
record scratch is what's going to happen.
Yeah,
And, we just gently want to break it to them.
yes, yes.
We're
So,
going this way. It's okay. You'll get used to it.
and in some cases, if they say, well, we only have 10 sheets, I don't want to say 0, 0, and 1 and jump to 4. then that's an independent conversation, especially if a client says, I don't like this number and can't we just go in order? Well, then we're talking about client standard, right?
That's
Which
fine.
is different than Hazen standards.
We're
So,
trying to go with like big plant work or like
yep.
big conveyance projects or wastewater treatment plant or
Yep.
that's
But it does work for all projects, and it allows us
yes.
to get used to the same format for all of our projects.
For smaller
So
projects, we will try to bend this in together to make it work a little more holistically. So I like it. This is great.
yeah, it
And
allows
then-
us a lot of flexibility. So it's really nice.
Yeah, and this also is more of an industry standard.
It is. Yep. It is.
File naming, so.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm
You
sure
see
I'll screw it
this-
up plenty, but I'll try to self-incriminate as many times as possible. So.
Okay, so I will share those after I fix that one change in this conveyance layout example. And then next, we're going to talk about swapping out multiple parts for gravity networks and pressure networks. And some of you may have used some of these tools, but just giving little tidbits of information as we continue on with our monthly meetings. So for gravity pipe networks, if you want to swap out multiple part sizes, you can do that through the Project Explorer. And some may be familiar with Project Explorer. It's relatively new in the program, but it's sort of a different dashboard or way of looking at what's available also in your tool space. So it provides a lot of actually really nice tools. I'm just going to touch on swapping out multiple part sizes. So for instance, if you have a pipe network and they've decided that pipe network needs to be a 12-inch line instead of a 6-inch line, you can go in your Project Explorer and you type in the command Project Explorer in your command prompt, it will bring up this dashboard. And then you can see where I selected the actual pipe network here. And then I went to the individual pipe network that I want to work in, and it tells you right there, this one has this many structures, this many pipes. It gives you a lot of really great information. What I've done down here is highlight the handful of pipes that I'm going to be swapping sizes on. So I'm highlighting, okay, yes, I want to grab these. Now you could do them individually, but obviously it makes sense if you want to do an entire network or an entire street of pipes where you want to swap out these sizes. So I'm just grabbing a handful here. You right click and say swap parts. And what that looks like in the program is basically coming over to Project Explorer. I get my pop-up for my dashboard.
It's also in your ribbon bar under home.
On the home
Mhm.
up here. Yep. And then I'm just going to use this one as an example. I'm going to go to the pipes. You can see there's 0 structures in here. Here's where the pipes live at. Okay. This is probably tiny because it looks small on my screen too, because it is a smaller box. So if you need to zoom in, you can use the plus symbol in the corner of the teams if you want to zoom in. I'm going to just sort maybe 2-inch lines, okay, inside of this communications. Maybe we've decided instead of using 2-inch as our default size, we're going to show them as 4-inch. So what I've done is sort by inner width here, and I'm going to highlight all the ones that I want to swap out and swap parts. Now, when you're swapping parts in the Project Explorer, it's going to keep the inverts. So you don't have any input on, I want you to hold the top of pipe, the outer, the outer top or the center. It's going to hold the pipe inverts when you swap. So I'm just going to say, I'm going to swap them to a 12-inch, okay? And so it goes through the process of grabbing all of those pipes and swapping them all out. Of course, 12 inch isn't in here, so that's great. It just use something else. Swap them to a 4-inch. Why is this not working when it just
It's-
works?
It's probably because those networks don't live there.
Oh, they don't? Am I in the wrong thing?
Yeah, you would have to be in the file that they are designed in.
Yes. I thought that I was. This is odd because I just did this right before we jumped on the call.
SPP. Oh, the PX should though.
Yeah. So I'm not sure why
Sorry, I couldn't see.
it could be. There's no structure assigned. This is very interesting. I love when this stuff happens, when you test it out and it works great, and then you get on a call and it's not working.
And then go
Um,
ahead.
but that's the process. So I don't know why it's not working today when it worked for me just before the call.
You could try a
But that's,
different network.
yeah, maybe I'll try a different network because I'm also in a project that's not mine. So
Could
all
it be
right, so
because you're in read only too?
it could be, it might be. So I'm going to hit swap on, let's say these 3 48-inch pipes. Maybe I switch them to a 54-inch. There it goes. It switched it. It changed them all to 54-inch. I'm not sure why that one was locked down for me. I'm not sure. But if anybody knows, chime in. But basically, that's the process. You go through, grab the ones that you want to swap. You swap them. That holds the invert. It swaps the size across the board for you for all the ones that you selected. So, and again, you could control a lot of things from this dashboard. You can assign it an alignment. You can change the display styles. You could do the same thing with structures as well. It will hold the top, the rim insert or rim invert, rim elevation. If you want to swap multiple part sizes as well with your structures. So you can also do structures and pipes for gravity networks in the Project Explorer. So a lot of the same tools you would use in your tool space are also available here in addition to some others. So if you haven't used Project Explorer, maybe check it out, see what you think, see if it's helpful for you. It's a different dashboard, but it has a lot of content in it. So that's the process for swapping out gravity network parts. To swap out pressure network parts, I'm going to use, let me go back over to our agenda. So this was for gravity network parts. For pressure network parts, you can swap out multiple pipe sizes and you can choose what you want to hold as far as your elevation reference point. So it's not just going to default to centerline or invert. You have control over it. And you do this from the tool space. It's not, I guess, available yet. Hopefully they make it available in Project Explorer because it seems like that would be an easy way to do it. But we'll do it from our tool space window. So the first thing I'm going to do is go through and swap out, let's say we're going to swap out our 6-inch lines to 8-inch lines. So I'm just going to go select these, select a handful of them. Okay. And so you want to select these. And then you go through the process of swapping the parts. So once you highlight them, you have to make sure you're in your plan layout for your pressure network, and then you should be able to swap the parts, okay? So it's going to highlight up here our menu. I did select quite a few, so it'll take it a second. We love when sharing screens is slow.
Mm-hmm.
Move this over too. I should have just grabbed like 10.
Yeah, there's quite a bit in there.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just do this. Just start over. So once you select the 3, you get the list up here, right? You just want to make sure you're in your pressure network for, here we go. So we're going to be working with the pressure network here. This one must have been a 2024. So we may have to do this a little bit differently because it's not a pipe run, is it? Ilza?
No, it's not. Mm-mm.
Okay. Why is it choosing fittings? So let's see what we get. We may have to jump into an edit here. And then we should be able to swap parts. Yes, so there's an extra step if it is not path-based, meaning it doesn't have a pipe run associated with it. It's not going to automatically default to the plan layout. You're going to have to say edit network in plan view, and then you should get the option to swap the parts.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just one little extra step for those that are not path-based, the ones that are part-based. And this is where you will be able to swap out your sizes and say what you want it to hold. So if you want it to hold a cover, you would keep outside top. Obviously center line, you would keep center line. Okay. And so it swaps it out to the larger size. Now you will have to go through and swap your fittings and appurtenances as well to the larger size because they're going to still say 6-inch. Now you'll notice that the size now says 8-inch, but this override description still says 6-inch because that's something that we manually put in when we develop that part or put that part in initially. So while I still have this highlighted, I'm going to go through and change that to 8-inch and then just have it do all of them at once. And boom, we're updated. All of our labels should be updated. You'll go and find the fittings that you need to swap out. Again, you can sort them by the size you're dealing with, or you can select them and swap them out all at once. It's the same process for fittings, appurtenances, and pipes. And you would do those through the tool space. So we do have options of pressure networks to swap out multiple parts at one time and regular gravity pipe network structures and pipes. So does that make sense? Has anybody used these tools before?
Yes, in the past.
It's good. So it's nice so you don't have to redo or recreate different pipe networks. You can actually swap them out. So
Yeah, I haven't used the multiple swapping.
yep. It beats having to have,
Swapping
recreate.
each one.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, or swapping
That's nice.
each one individually. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So
That's nice.
Yeah,
So
I know
that's
you
really,
kind
go
of,
ahead.
sorry, I know you kind of hit on it a little bit, but just kind of, re-emphasizing checking the description because I've worked
Mm-hmm.
on Utley,
Yep.
swapped a bunch out and then moved on with my day and then realized all the descriptions are still for a different size or
Yep.
even a different angle
Different.
bend.
Yes, you're right. Yes, got to check those description fields. When we initially create it, it's going to pull it from the parts list, but anything we do after we create it, we're going to want to double check that description field on our parts. So that's a good point, Brent. Thank you. Okay, that's what I have. Niels, I'll bounce it back to you for final comments and such, if you want to
Yep.
take back over.
Yeah. All right. We covered a lot today. Questions or any topics that you would like to discuss for future meetings? We are skipping our October meeting and picking it back up on November 5th. Any other questions, suggestions, topics you'd like to discuss?
if this hasn't been discussed already, but maybe going more into the Project Explorer, kind of showing how you can export a lot of information out of there.
Oh yeah, there's quite a bit that you can export out of Project Explorer. This is under Home. Is your button. It takes a little bit to populate, especially if you've got a large drawing. But like Jesse was talking about, your pipe networks, you can actually come in here and if you're needing, say, get a parts list, you can export all this information out into an Excel file by just clipping it to a clipboard, and it gives you like every information that's built into that part. So very easy way of creating a parts list, and also with your pipes as well. It's an easy way to look at it in a tabulated form to see what is missing, what needs to be updated, what has the right styles, instead of going through and picking stuff off your screen. But there are multiple different, like Jesse was talking about, like you can go through your alignments and actually change stations. You can see your stations in a tabulated form, and you can actually update information right on this dialog box.
I think it's more user friendly than the tool space.
Yes, for sure. Especially if you got like assemblies and corridors. This is, I mean, my drawing doesn't have any here, but surfaces is the same thing. Sample lines, pipe networks, pressure networks, all kinds of stuff that you can do in here. I would highly suggest, if you have not been in Project Explorer, take a look at it. It's very handy.
Yeah, this is probably a topic for a whole meeting, but you can set up exports that you can save. So, if you're exporting the same information to GIS on a regular basis for a project, you can have it saved. So you can just click the button, have it generate, and run it again. So, yeah, it's pretty powerful.
These used to be extra tools that resellers or other companies used to basically sell to users as like an add-on, but Autodesk has built in a lot of those tools over the years. So we're seeing the benefit of that right here, which is nice. So,
and the nice,
but there's a lot in there. Yeah.
The nice part too with Project Explorer is not a dialog box that has to close. With most of the dialog boxes in Civil 3D, you have to close the dialog box to get to something else. This can stay open in your other screen. So that's very, very handy if you wanted to, where is this? I'm gonna go zoom to it. Anyways, take a look. Anyways, that's all we have for today. Any questions? Appreciate everyone attending. And we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, everyone.
Thanks, Ella.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.